Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our Financial Literacy Overview webinar. My name is Allie Smith. I'm Assistant Director of Financial Counseling here at Penn State's Sokolov-Miller Family Financial and Life Skills Center. I also have Holly Deemer here with me today. She's one of our wonderful financial literacy ambassadors. They do so much great work for us. Holly, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you for the short intro. Hi, everybody. My name is Holly Deemer. I am a senior here at Penn State and a financial literacy ambassador. I am studying both marketing and broadcast journalism, and I've been with the center for about a year and a half, and I am very excited to speak with you all today.
Awesome. Thanks, Holly. And then on the chat today, we also have Aiden Miller, who is another one of our wonderful financial literacy ambassadors. He'll just be helping to moderate the chat and posting some helpful links and resources in there throughout today's webinar. So I'll let Aiden introduce himself also.
Hello, my name is Aiden Miller. I'm a junior finance major and I've been working at the center since my fall freshman year. I also do one-on-one appointments as a financial peer mentor, and I'm really excited to be joining you today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Aiden. So this is our most popular presentation that we do here at the center, our financial literacy overview. And between the three of us, we're so excited to share it with you today. We do host this webinar series every other week during the semester on various topics in financial literacy. And you can find out more about the topics that we have coming up in the future in the semester on our events page on our website. So just a few housekeeping items before we dive in here. As you have questions, or if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat or in the Q&A. Aiden and I will both be looking at the chat, and then we'll check out the Q&A at the end. The Q&A feature does allow you to ask questions anonymously if you'd like to take advantage of that. And then if you happen to be attending from Smeal's Ethical Leadership Challenge, we are still partnering with them, but we're no longer doing the QR codes at the end of the webinar like we had done in the past. We're just working directly with the point person for that program to share the attendance report at the end of the webinar. So rest assured, if you're from the Smeal Ethical Leadership Challenge and you are hoping to get credit within that challenge today for attending the webinar, you will still be getting that. So I'm sure you heard when you joined, this webinar is being recorded and we'll post it to our YouTube page later this week. You can find recordings of all of our past webinars on our YouTube page. Otherwise, before we dive in, I had a chance to check out the registration report beforehand. And it looks like we have a lot of undergraduate students, staff members, and Penn State parents here today. So welcome, everyone. We even had a few faculty, alumni, and community members sign up as well. So welcome all. Thank you so much for being here. And then I'll hand it back over to Holly to kind of kick us off here for our financial literacy overview.
Thank you, Allie. Okay, so again, today we are going to be going over the financial literacy overview. Allie, I don't believe I can switch slides, so would you be able to click ahead for me?
Yeah, I'll give you remote control here.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So to kick it off, we're going to talk about what is financial wellness. A lot of times, many people just assume that being financially well means having the full control over your finances by having the most income, highest net worth, or the highest credit score. However, that isn't actually the case. Having strong financial wellness is just having control over your finances, being able to make it day by day, month by month, not living paycheck to paycheck, but being able to have the capacity to absorb financial shock if something happens, like you lose your job and which is an unfortunate case, but if you lose your job and are unable to pay your rent, that you're able to front yourself for a couple months to make it through that. Additionally, having the financial freedom to enjoy your life by making different choices. I know there's some students out there, so maybe that's going on a spring break trip. For the parents out there, this could be scheduling some time to come up and visit your student at Penn State, getting a hotel room, or even going on a summer vacation. Any sort of choice that you are looking to make that likely costs a little bit more money. And then that's also being on track to meet your financial goals. Students, this may be paying off your student loans, and parents, this may be paying off your mortgage. It could be a small goal, big goal, whatever it may be. You just want to be on track to meet those goals. So to be able to become financially well, so sorry, this remote control thing, I don't know if it's working for me or not. Okay. So how we teach financial wellness here is through the ladder to financial wellness. And for those of you that have climbed a ladder in the past, you know that when you start on a ladder, you start on the bottom rung. If you try to jump up to the third rung of a ladder, you're likely going to have it fall back on you and you'll get hurt. And that's exactly how financial wellness is. You start at the bottom. You start with creating a budget, creating that strong foundation, getting yourself up onto the ladder. And then from there, you can create your emergency fund, consider your debt, plan for your future, and then finally reach the top of the ladder, reach your goal of growing your wealth and having your money work for you. However, this is a very difficult process to go through, but we are here to make it simple for you and here to be a resource in helping you in your financial journey. So to kick it off, we're going to start with a budget. So can I just get sort of a reaction, maybe raising your hand, sending over any sort of reaction on the Zoom if you have created a budget in the past? Great, love to see it. Love to see all the thumbs ups, all the hands raised. That's amazing. So even if you haven't created a budget, that's what we're here for. Having a budget is pretty much giving every dollar that you have come into your bank account or into your pocket, giving it a purpose. And maybe that's setting money aside for food, gas, groceries, all the necessities, and then maybe also some other more want related necessities such as your Spotify subscription, Netflix subscription, whatever it may be, just making sure that every dollar is going towards something. And that doesn't have to be a physical item or service. That can also be saving your money. So you want to make sure that the decisions you make with your dollar today helps your future out in the long run. So, for example, I am a lover of Starbucks. I will always get a Starbucks coffee every morning. I make sure to add that into my budget because even though that I could make coffee at home, it's one of those things that is just special to me and I really enjoy it. So I add that into my budget and set that money aside today. But also you want to make sure that money is set aside in your budget because in the future, if you aren't keeping track of your funds, that could affect you paying off your student loans, wanting to get a new car, wanting to put a down payment on a house, whatever it may be, because the $5 you may spend on a coffee every morning, that racks up. It may only be $5 today, but by the end of the week, that's a lot more money that you've spent. So you want to make sure that every dollar is going somewhere. So the process to create a budget is simple, but it's important that you remain honest and accurate with it. Because if you create an Excel spreadsheet of your budget and then use it once just to create it, then never touch it again, it's really not doing anything for you. So you want to keep your finances under control and keep yourself accountable in the process. So first, you want to set a financial goal. Speaking to the students out there, let's say your financial goal is paying for 2 months of rent off campus for next year. So about $1,500 to $3,000. That's your financial goal. After that, you're going to find a tool that you like. Some people prefer the pen and paper method. Others enjoy Excel spreadsheets. I, on the other hand, prefer to fully automate everything using a budgeting app. It's just easier to hold myself accountable. So finding a tool that works best for you and not just the tool that you think is right, but whichever one is keeping you the most accountable and setting everything on there. Identifying your income and expenses. That may be a part-time job you have on campus, a full-time job, any sort of family help that you're getting, any other sort of side gig income you may have, and then your expenses, your rent, your gas, your groceries, any other sort of money that's going to be coming out of your account. subtracting those expenses from your income, and then adjusting your spending as needed. What you may find when you create a budget is that you likely spend too much money on some things without even realizing it. So you want to make sure to adjust your spending in a way that makes your life still comfortable enough and that you're still happy, but also that you're not overspending and being foolish with your money. So we're going to move on to finding your tool. I know that I would like to see, can you drop in the chat if you've used any of the tools on the screen or if there's another budgeting tool you've used before? I actually don't know if I can see the chat, so if people are saying things, please feel free to, and I will come back to it later. But there are many tools that exist. Like I mentioned,
Sorry, Holly, I did that. I was going to tell you what people are saying in the
oh,
chat.
oh yeah,
Um, so people are saying Mint, RIP to
yes.
Mint, Credit Karma, Excel, Mint, Excel. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. It sounds like the big two are Mint and Excel. Unfortunately, Mint has since merged with, did it merge with Chase Bank? Is that,
I'm not quite sure. I do know I've heard that the new Mint is not as functional as the old Mint. Um, I'm not sure who they went with though.
yeah, so unfortunately, Mint isn't what it used to be, but that was always my top pick. Now I currently use You Need a Budget, which is a paid software, but with a Penn State email, you were able to get 1 year for free on it. So I highly recommend that. Additionally, our website, financialliteracy.psu.edu, has a budget template on there for all of the Excel lovers out there. And it already comes with every function built into it. So all you have to do is plug in your numbers and it will calculate everything for you. Also, for those of you that may have a meal plan or have a child that has a meal plan, we have a meal plan calculator. And that's great because it shows you how much money you can spend every day on the campus meal plan to avoid you having to reach out to your parents for extra money towards the end of the semester or having your students reach out to you, parents. So, this is a great way just to budget out that money and know whether you can spend $10 on a bowl at Panda Express or if you should take a couple days to just eat at the buffet. Additionally, other tools exist which are listed up here, but the key to this is to find the right tool for you. I know for me personally, using Excel, it's nice, but I can't focus with having it on my laptop whenever most of the time I don't have my laptop out. So I prefer having something that's always with me. So using a phone app. Other people may feel the opposite. So it's important to follow what's best for you and make sure that you are staying true to yourself through this because a budget without honesty or accuracy is not a budget. It is just a spreadsheet you created or an app you downloaded. So, budgeting for college expenses. As I'm sure everybody here knows, college is very expensive. So, it's important to utilize a budget when it comes to paying off student loans, deciding if you need student loans, or applying for other sorts of financial aid. Allie, would you like to touch on the FAFSA and the net price calculator?
Absolutely, yeah. So just some updates that we want to share with the FAFSA. First of all, FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, right? So filling out the FAFSA annually is essential to receive any sort of federal financial aid. So things like grants and scholarships and even student loans, federal student loans. Typically, the FAFSA is available on October 1st for the following academic year. So in normal times, the FAFSA opens October 1st, in what is that, a week away, for fall 25 or the 25-26 academic year. We know that the FAFSA last year was new, and because of that, it was late. So we have a little bit of a delay this year as well. The FAFSA will be available on October 1st For a small portion of students, we don't know exactly who those students are, but a small portion of students are going to have the FAFSA available to them on October 1st. The rest of the students will have the FAFSA available to them by December 1st. So, our financial aid office has kind of shared that they are kind of sharing that you should be expecting to fill out the FAFSA on December 1st, as that's what most students will be doing. So look for the FAFSA in December and be ready to fill that out for the following academic year. So for that 25-26 year.
Thank you.
Should I touch on the net price calculator now too?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Um, also, you can estimate your yearly cost of attendance using Penn State's net price calculator. It's a great tool, and it actually has just been newly revamped. The net price calculator has a new vendor now, so it looks completely different, and it's a much more extensive process and estimate. So that tool can help you estimate how much you would actually receive in federal financial aid, which is really helpful to know. And what I personally love about it is that it also shows you your yearly cost of attendance to come to Penn State, depending on, if you're in state or out of state or how much financial aid you're getting, like those important pieces of information. And it also shows you your estimated cost of attendance over like the life of your degree program. So, like for 4 years, basically, which is a really important thing to be thinking about because when we go to college, we do want to be able to afford to finish out our degree and actually graduate and walk across the stage with that diploma, right? So I believe Aiden dropped, gosh, did I do that? This is a little finicky, huh? I keep, okay, going back and looking at the chat. Okay, so the new net price calculator is in the chat. It's the link that is like Meadow Phi or something. Gosh, why is this so crazy? Holly, I am going to I'm gonna remove the control because that's making things so crazy. Okay. Um sorry everyone. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so net price calculator. There's a new vendor, right? The link is in the chat. It has like Meadow in the name. It's like Meadow Phi. So we really encourage you, no matter where you are in your degree, whether you are a first year or you're just thinking about coming to Penn State, we really do encourage you to check out that new tool because it's really helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yes, just echoing Allie, I believe that that is a great tool to look at, especially for out-of-state students or students that are going to be moving off campus for the first time, because it helps you really realize your billable versus your non-billable expenses, and then also differences in tuition. I'm sure many of you know, but if you don't, once you enter into your third year, your credits will become more expensive. And that also depends on which academic college you're located in within Penn State. So using that will really help you figure out everything for the next year. And also consider other financial sources to pay for school, such as grants and scholarships are the two that we recommend that you look at the most, since they are free money that you won't have to pay back. Grants can be federal grants, so you would have to fill out the FAFSA for those. And I believe most scholarships require you to fill out the FAFSA as well, especially within Penn State. And also with scholarships, many academic colleges offer specific scholarships to their students. So I know liberal arts and SMEAL are the two big ones that do this. So if you are located in either of those or really any other college at Penn State, please look at the different scholarship opportunities. Usually it's a general application that you fill out, and then they assign a scholarship to you if the funds are available. So I always recommend to look for those. Additionally, there is work study and part-time jobs. Um, these are a great way just to cover some of those non-billable expenses and earn a paycheck. And then personal funds and family support are great as well, if you have those. But as a last case scenario, we always say to wait on loans just because you will have to pay them back and pay back more than you received them for. So looking at federal loans or private loans, with federal loans being a little bit more preferred to private since they generally have lower interest rates than private loans do. But again, make sure to check all of these resources with grants and scholarships, um, work study or part-time job, personal funds, and loans. Okay, so congratulations. You made it past creating a budget, so you're able to climb up one more rung on the ladder to creating an emergency fund. Can I get a show of hands of anybody that has created an emergency fund in the past? Great, I'd love to see it. At least 4 or 5 of you have. Thank you, Aiden, for participating. But it's amazing to see that so many of you have already created them before. But an emergency fund is important to have at least 3 months worth of your living expenses saved. For students that may be living on campus or are still students and likely don't have the most flexible income, I recommend about $500 for you because that's a high enough amount to cover many of the basic needs that you would need to fill, but not too high that you are saving up for over a year for it. But this is just 3 months of your living expenses, and this is pretty much like bare bones ramen noodle diet, just trying to make it through 3 months if something bad happens and you may lose a job, lose a source of income, and really need to just get through. So paying for your rent, your gas, your groceries, pretty much. Not any vacations, any travel, or any other things that you don't absolutely need to survive. And you want to keep your emergency fund safe but also accessible. So you don't want to keep it right in your checking account, but keeping it in a savings account or a high yield savings account to get, my apologies, to gain some more interest and be able to pull it out if something bad happens, but also have it far enough away that you're not going to just spend it accidentally on a night that you're out to dinner. I know for me, my sophomore year, my laptop's battery died. And while that wasn't a huge expense, it was something that having an emergency fund really helped me with because I was able to quickly pull that money out, pay for the new battery for my laptop, and then not worry about any other sort of expenses that I had, and just was able to put my other money towards building the emergency fund back up. Having this there and stashed away is great in the cases of a laptop breaks, your car battery dies, any other sort of like misfortunes you may have that you just need to have some quick accessible cash to get you through. However, an emergency does not mean you really want to go to Punta Cana for spring break and the flight is $2,000. That would unfortunately not fall under your emergency fund, but you could save money for that otherwise. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Allie to discuss credit.
Okay, thanks, Holly, and great job. Moving on to the third rung of our ladder, here is where we consider our debts. So, at some point, you may need to take out a loan of some kind to pay for school or cover a major expense like a car, for example. Most of us who are in school or have went to school might already have debt of some kind. So, for example, as soon as you take out that first student loan, you have debt, right? Until you pay it off. No matter who you've borrowed from, whether it's a bank or a credit card company or the government or even your friends or family, most of the people that we borrow from expect that we repay them the money that they loaned us. And while our friends might be a little more forgiving if we don't pay them back right away, places like banks and credit card companies and the government, not so much. That said, it's really important that if you owe money, you have some sort of strategy to repay that money. So this means that you know how much you owe, who you owe it to, how much it's costing you in interest, all of your options for repayment, and that your budget is accounting for those repayment payments. This is really why our budgets are the foundation of our financial wellness ladders, because our budgets will make achieving all of our other financial goals possible, including conquering our debts. So, when we fail to repay our debt on time according to our agreement, our financial reputation can take a hit. And when we say financial reputation, we really mean credit score. So when we fail to repay our debt, according to our original agreement, our credit scores will drop, which can make it difficult to borrow money in the future, find housing, whether that is renting or buying, or even to get a job. We'll talk about credit in a few slides, but if you have any debt at all, just know that you have a credit score and a financial reputation that's worth maintaining. So let's talk about how we do that. How do we manage our debt? So when we have debt, the most important thing we can do is remain informed on our debt situation and create a plan for ourselves to navigate this debt and repay it. We shouldn't hide from it, and ignoring it, unfortunately, will not make it go away. So the best thing you can really do is face your debt situation head on. So, step one is to get organized. Here you can make a list. So, list the name of the debt, like who it's from, what it is, the interest rate, the amount in total, and the minimum monthly payment. You can organize this all in one place, like an Excel sheet, if that's how you like to organize your finances. Step two is to learn about your repayment options. Some repayment terms are pretty cut and dry, like they want X amount of dollars from you over the course of X years. But some are more flexible, like federal student loans, for example, are much more flexible. So here you really want to learn about your options, and this is something that we can help with at the center. Step three is to take those minimum monthly payments and to piece them or fit them into your budget. And in looking at your budget, taking a look and seeing, is there anything you need to adjust in your budget to fit those payments in? So, are there some wants that you have been regularly paying for that you might need to cut out so that you can fit in these minimum monthly payments? And step four is if you have extra money in your budget that can be used or that you want to use towards paying debt off, really looking at and prioritizing those high interest debts first. So you'd want to make all of your minimum monthly payments first, of course, but if you have extra money then in your budget that you want to use to conquer debt, something like credit card debt, for example, should get first priority because the interest rate on that is likely very high. So maybe in this process of using extra money to pay down debt, you're using some sort of method like the debt avalanche or the debt snowball method. And Aiden, if you want to learn about either of those methods, Aiden posted a link in the chat where you can learn more about those and the differences between the two, the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. Since a lot of us are students in the audience today, I kind of want to quickly reframe this conversation that's kind of broad around debt, around student loans, because, most of us might have student loans. So if you have student loans, I really do encourage you to stay informed on your loan situation. Every single semester that you take out new loans, whether those are federal loans or private loans or both, you should be logging into your accounts and looking at those loans at the very least. So you want to look at how much you've borrowed so far, what your interest rates are. And for federal loans, you want to look and see if those loans are subsidized or unsubsidized. So, of course, your subsidized loans are not going to accrue any interest as long as you're enrolled in school at least half time. And your unsubsidized loans will accrue interest like any other loan would. So, it's important to know which types you have. You might have both. If you have private loans, you want to follow similar steps. So, logging into your account, whoever your servicer is or the bank that you've been working with, looking at the total amount that you have borrowed so far and your interest rates and your repayment terms. Knowledge really is power when it comes to your student loans. So if you have student loans and even if you're feeling a little bit of stress around your student loans, I would really encourage you to be taking these steps to get informed on, what do things look like. I would really also encourage you to be aware of what those future loan payments look like. So, for your federal loans, you can log into studentaid.gov's loan simulator tool, and that tool will help you calculate your future loan repayment options. For private loans, you likely signed up for a repayment schedule when you originally borrowed that loan, and you should be able to find that somewhere within your account. So each time you borrow more money, right, you should be looking at your future loan repayment obligations and taking note of what they are and how they're growing each semester or each time you borrow money. How you manage your debt is reflected in your credit score or your financial reputation. So, your credit score is kind of like your financial GPA. It gives a sort of snapshot of how well you've managed your debt in the last 3 to 10 years. So, it is kind of a lagging indicator in that way. That said, if you're a student, the decisions that you make surrounding your credit can affect you at and even after graduation. So, like the decisions that you make in college surrounding your credit can absolutely affect you in the future after graduation. Your credit score can range from 300 to 850, and typically anything in the 700 and above range is seen as good. Really, when it comes to your credit score, the higher the better. A good credit score can make it easier to rent or buy a home, cheaper to borrow money in the future, and some employers might even check your credit score before actually offering you the job. Especially folks focusing on business and finance, you need to be ready for this. They may want to look at your credit. Your credit score is an important part of your overall financial picture, and it's important not to forget about it because it is there, right? Some mobile banking apps give you your credit score for free each month. I know that my credit card shares that with me each month. Or you can also use a tool like Credit Karma to check your score regularly. Personally, I love Credit Karma because it not only shows you your score, like what that number actually is, but it also shows you all the different factors that go into a credit score and how you specifically are doing in each of those areas. So it shows you areas that you're doing really good in and also areas where your score could use some work. So it's really a great educational tool in that way. And of course, it does not hurt to check your credit score on something like Credit Karma or your mobile banking app. A quick tip that we'll share for keeping your credit score good is to always pay your bills on time and keep your credit card balances low. Two factors that affect your credit score the most are your payment history and the amount that you owe. And the good news here is that you really do have control over both of those things. So, in most cases, you can control paying on time, like making your payment, and the amount that you owe on your card. Whereas, something like the amount of time you've had credit established, you have less control over that, right? That just takes some time, especially if you're younger and you're a student. Um, but when we say the amount that you owe, we're referring to your utilization rate, and that is just the amount of your total credit limit that you have used at any given time. A general rule of thumb is that you should keep your credit card balances under 30% of your total credit limit, even if you pay off your card in full each month. So, for example, if you have a $1,000 credit limit, at any given time, you'd want to have no more than $300 charged on your credit card to be keeping yourself under that 30% threshold. Credit cards can really be a great financial tool for building credit, but they also are a big responsibility. So, if you're someone who doesn't have a credit card and you're maybe thinking of getting one, as a financial educator, I would really encourage you to have an honest conversation with yourself to assess whether you think that you can handle a credit card. A credit card does give you the ability to spend more money than you have, and that can be dangerous, right? So, we would love to talk with you here at the center in a financial coaching appointment to help you decide if getting a first credit card is right for you. And, if so, help you come up with a plan on how you can use that card responsibly to build credit. And I will talk a little bit at the end about how you can schedule a financial coaching appointment with us if you're interested. Okay, so our fourth rung of the ladder is to plan for the future. A future financial goal that is common to most of us is to retire, right? We probably all want to retire at some point. But other than that, we'll all have different future financial goals, like maybe purchasing a home or traveling or starting a family. Aside from retirement, this might look different for everyone. So, how can we plan for the future? First, we can plan for the future by saving and investing for those major expenses that I just mentioned, like retirement and home buying. When it comes to buying your first home, there are a lot of expenses to plan for, not only your down payment, but also closing costs, which can rack up as well. And if buying a home is a long-term financial goal, like 10 or more years away, you might think about investing your home purchase fund to really take advantage of potential market growth. But if it's something you're hoping to do in the near future, like in the next 5 or less years, you might want to stash those savings in something like a high yield savings account, like Holly talked about earlier. When it comes to retirement, however, the best thing that you can do is to start investing early and often. Saving will not be enough for retirement. For retirement, we must invest. And if you estimate that maybe you'll need $1 million to retire, for example, the earlier that you start investing to reach that goal, the less of your own money you'll actually have to stash away into retirement accounts because of how the magic and power of compound interest works. It's really a beautiful thing. For retirement, there are a few different ways that you can save depending on what age and stage of life you're in. First, if you have access to an employer-sponsored retirement account like a 401k, you'll want to be sure to take your employer match there. And for Penn State staff members out there, um, as one of our options for retirement, we're offered a 403b through TIAA, and this is similar to a 401k. It's just the nonprofit version of this type of account. And within this option that we're offered, it's one of a few options. If you contribute 5% of your income monthly, Penn State contributes 9.29% of your income monthly. So this is really a great deal, right? This is free money. So for anyone with access to a 401k or a 403b, it is a good rule of thumb to always contribute at least what you need to receive your full employer match. From there, if you'd like to invest more for retirement, or if you don't have access to an employer-sponsored retirement account yet, so students, you're not going to have access to an employer-sponsored retirement account just yet, but likely you will in the future. An IRA or an individual retirement account is another way to contribute for your future self. For IRAs, there is the Roth and the traditional IRA, and they work in kind of opposite ways. So, with the Roth IRA, you put money into the account after having paid income tax on it, and then you invest that money and it can grow tax free. And at retirement, which for these accounts is after age 59 and a half, you have access to your money completely tax free. With the traditional IRA, you put the money in pre-tax, so you don't pay tax on it, and it decreases your taxable income in the amount that you contribute. And then that money can also grow tax-free. But then when you withdraw the money in retirement is when you pay the tax on it. One caveat for the IRA is that you must have earned income in the year that you contribute of at least the amount you contribute. So if you want to put $2,000 into your Roth IRA, you better have made at least $2,000 of taxable income on paper. There are also limits to how much you can contribute each year to an IRA. So the 2024 annual contribution limit for IRAs is $7,000. There are some links in the chat with more information on IRAs if you'd like to learn more. And maybe you want to decide, is a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA best for me? Check out the resources in the chat. There's also a link in there about how you could use money from your IRA to purchase your first home. So, in planning for the future, we not only need to save and invest for our future selves, but we also need to protect our financial futures through financial tools like insurance and by protecting our identities. Students, renters insurance is an important one for you that you might not have thought of. It is typically pretty cheap, like $10 or $20 a month, and it can help you replace your personal belongings in the event of a catastrophe in your apartment or in your dorm room. We also need to think about protecting our identities, and we can do that through regularly checking in on our accounts. Monitoring your credit score and reviewing your credit report is also a good way to make sure you haven't been a victim of identity theft. So, if you check Credit Karma, you would want to make sure all the accounts that show up in the accounts portion of your profile are accounts that you have opened yourself and that you are aware of. You can also pull a free credit report at annualcreditreport.com. So, your credit report has all the information that's reflected in your credit score. So, it's kind of like the back end of your credit score in a way. If you pull a credit report, you would just want to comb through it and make sure you're aware of every item on there. Lastly, preventing identity theft. A way to prevent identity theft is by keeping your documents and your passwords and your social security number safe and secure. So, for example, if you've been using the same password for everything, including your bank account, since high school, you might want to take a minute to update that, right? Got to keep those things secure. Okay, so we have reached the fifth and final rung of our financial wellness ladder, which is to grow your wealth. Growing your wealth does involve investing of some kind. Saving alone is not enough to grow your wealth because of inflation and the effect that it has on our savings. So, we're going to watch a short video on the basics of investing to grow our wealth. But I did realize after I shared my screen, I've done this before, that I did not share sound. So let me fix that real quick and then we'll watch the video. Okay, should be good to go.
Meet Bob. Bob just graduated from college and got his first job at Corporate Co. After a month of hard work, Bob has just received his first paycheck. He's very excited. Bob plans to spend 50% of it on rent and utilities, and another 30% of it on food and fun activities, like going to the movies. As for the last 20%, Bob wants to do something with it, maybe even invest it, but isn't sure where to start. So, Bob decides to deposit it into a bank account. Bob thinks this is a safe plan. After all, the bank will actually pay him a small amount of money each year, called interest, just for keeping his money safe at the bank. This sounds great, there's just one problem. Bob may actually be losing money. Bob is flabbergasted. How can that be? Well, it comes down to something called inflation. Inflation is simply the idea that prices for goods and services rise over time. Why inflation occurs is beyond the scope of this video, but your grandparents are cranky for a reason. In the 1950s, you could actually buy a loaf of bread for 12 cents and a new house for 10 grand. Inflation in the US is targeted to around 2% a year. This is bad for Bob. That's because even though the bank may pay Bob 1% for his deposit, prices have actually increased by 2%. So what should Bob do? Well, in order to actually make money, Bob needs to invest in something that will beat inflation. Generally speaking, only three things do: bonds, commercial real estate, and stocks. Let's start with bonds. Bonds are loans made to corporations or governments. In return for your money, called principal, you'll receive a fixed amount of interest per year plus your money back once the bond expires. Because of this guarantee, bonds are the safest of the three investments, though this safety comes with a cost. They have the lowest potential investment return in the long run. Next, we have commercial real estate. This is property purchased to make money, generally by renting it out. While this is quite difficult for the average investor to do on his own, Bob could instead easily invest in a REIT, which is a professionally managed real estate portfolio. Finally, we have stocks. Stocks are simple. They represent a piece of ownership in a company, like Apple or Google. People buy and sell little pieces of these companies, called shares, in places called stock exchanges. When Bob buys a share of, say, Apple, he becomes a partial owner. When Apple does well, the share price goes up, and Bob makes money. When Apple does poorly, the share price goes down, and Bob loses money. These fluctuations can make stocks risky. However, fortunately for Bob, stocks in the United States return on average about 9% a year, including both share price appreciation and dividends, which are cash payments made to each shareholder when the company does well. Thus, if Bob invests the remaining 20% of his paycheck, say $100, he can beat inflation by almost 7% a year. But that's not all. Here comes the real magic. The next year, Bob will not only earn another 9% on his initial $100 investment, called principal, but an additional 9% on the $9 in profit from the previous year. Earning money on both your principal and profit is called compounding, and its magic is undeniable. Start investing early enough, and your portfolio will be like a snowball rolling down a hill, outstripping even those who put in much more but start later. Hopefully you and Bob now understand why it's important to invest your money. Be sure to watch our next video, which teaches you how to actually invest. And be sure
Okay, so hopefully that video was helpful in explaining a few things. So first, why it's important to invest to grow our wealth. Why? Because of inflation, saving will not exactly help us grow our wealth, right? Investing is really essential. Um, and also in kind of the visual of how compound interest works, really, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is really why starting to invest early and often is so important. So, as we wrap up here, I just want to say that this financial wellness ladder, really might take a lifetime to climb up. So don't be discouraged if you're at the bottom or if you're on one of the lower rungs. I really do encourage you to think about where you're currently at on the ladder to financial wellness and what steps or resources you might need to conquer your current rung and kind of climb up to the next rung on your financial wellness journey. So I'm just going to share out, take a minute to think about that. I'm going to share out a quick poll to ask where you think you're at on the financial wellness ladder. And rest assured, this is anonymous. So we won't be able to see what you're answering here, or no one else will be able to see either. Just curious where our audience is at on their financial wellness journeys. Okay. Looks like most of us have participated, so I'm going to go ahead and share out these results so you can get an idea of like where's everyone else on their journeys. Um, we've got a good split here. So a lot of us are planning for the future, which is fantastic. Um, and the next highest is, we're starting with a budget, so that's great. Wherever you are, I would encourage you to think about what you really might need to do, or like what things you might need to learn or be comfortable with to kind of conquer the step that you're on and maybe even work towards that next achievable step in the ladder. And of course, the center is here to support you in achieving your financial goals as well. And, taking that next step. So, here are some of the programs that we offer to support you in achieving your financial goals. And all of our services are free and open to all Penn State students. Our one-on-one coaching appointments, for our one-on-one coaching appointments, students can schedule those through Starfish, and these appointments really provide a confidential space for students to discuss their unique financial challenges, receive personalized education around money management, and work towards their financial goals. Staff members like myself and financial literacy ambassadors like Aiden and Holly soon offer the financial coaching appointments, and these can be scheduled in person or via Zoom. I do have a QR code on the next slide if you're a student and you're interested in scheduling an appointment. We also offer group presentations and webinars for classes, student organizations, and other groups. We've got self-study modules in Canvas on a variety of topics in financial literacy, and those are open to the public, so anyone can access those modules in Canvas. And our newest kind of like project or offering that we have is our financial wellness bookshelf. So we have a bookshelf here in our office in the Grange building at University Park, and each campus also has its own financial wellness bookshelf. So on our bookshelf, we've got a variety of different financial literacy books. And if you want to come and visit us and take a book, it's totally free. You can read the book and then you can decide what you want to do. If you want to bring it back, we'll take it back and give it to someone else, or you can share it with a friend, or you can keep it. This is really just another way for us to increase financial literacy in the community and just connect folks with resources in the Penn State community. So you can find more information on all of our services on our website, which is financialliteracy.psu.edu, and that QR code will take you to our website as well. Aiden posted some good links in the chat too. So our website, we've got a financial literacy overview self-study module, our fall 2024 webinar schedule to see what's coming up next, and then also our YouTube page has all of our recorded webinars on it, and we'll also have this webinar recorded and posted in the next few days. So really, we just want to plug these. If you're a student and you think that you could benefit in talking with a financial coach at the center, we really do encourage you to schedule an appointment. Like I said, center staff and peer mentors meet with students, and we really would be so excited to support you in achieving your financial goals. There's a link in the chat where you can schedule, and this QR code will also take you to Starfish where you can schedule an appointment. For any staff or faculty members who are in attendance and who are interested in receiving financial coaching, we work with our partners at PNC to offer financial coaching to staff and faculty. So if you're interested, you can email us at finlit@psu.edu to be connected with a coach at PNC. And then lastly, if you are interested in maybe providing this education back to others as a peer mentor, our center is hiring financial literacy ambassadors to start with us in the spring semester. So if you can see yourself doing this kind of work, we definitely invite you to apply. You can scan the QR code or use the link in the chat, which Aiden just put in the chat, great timing, to fill out an application.